2015 was an incredible year for gaming. It saw the releases of The Witcher 3, Fallout 4, Mortal Kombat X, Black Ops 3 and Dying Light. All of these top tier games made it difficult for their competitors to really stand a chance, and it seems for this reason, movie turned video game Mad Max was seemingly overlooked and missed by many players. You're listening to Phil of Philby Gaming, and in today's video we'll be exploring this title, including gameplay, visuals, story, characters and the many features that make Mad Max a hidden gem. As always, if you enjoy what you see, be sure to hit that like button, and if you're not subscribed to the channel already, please consider doing so. Please be aware that even though all of the footage you'll see today has been recorded from the first few hours of the title, there still may be minor spoilers ahead for the story. Without overdoing the intro too much, let's get into what we came here to see. Let's begin with the story itself and the character of Max. Max Rokitansky, played by Brent Foster, is a broken man. We learn pretty early on that he's mourning the loss of his wife and daughter after they were brutally slain. He's seeking peace and believes he'll find it in the Plains of Silence, a secluded region where he'll be left alone with his thoughts. Not much is keeping Max's mental state afloat, and he seems to not have much heart for anything, a mere shell of the person he once was. What he needs to reach the Plains of Silence is a vehicle to steer his way through these harsh and violent lands. At the beginning of the story, in what is definitely one of gaming's most entertaining openings, Max is ambushed by the War Boys, a faction led by the game's primary antagonist, Scabrous Scrotus, voiced by Travis Willingham. Max is beaten within an inch of his life and he's left for dead. His car, the Black on Black, is taken from his possession. Out of water and supplies, Max follows a dog who was previously a companion of Scabrous and meets with the lovable character of Chumbucket, portrayed brilliantly by Jason Spizak. Although initially under threat from Max, Chumbucket claims that he knows him as he witnessed the War Boys battle and he can help him locate the Black on Black. The pair find the car only to discover it's being dismantled as Scrotus claims all in this land. Still needing a vehicle to reach the Plains of Silence, Max and Chumbucket work together with the intention of building an entirely new car. This is the premise to the story of Mad Max. Let's talk a little about the world of Mad Max. Although what exactly transpired is unclear, the world is now a vast desert land. The seas have dried, leaving very little water. Surrounding Max are remnants of an existence that once was. Ships that had sunk into the bottom of the oceans many years before are now homes to survivors. The orange scenery reminds us constantly that the world has been scorched. Heavy sandstorms and small tornadoes appear seemingly randomly, forcing those to take immediate shelter. Those who have made it this far have formed packs or factions, which are in smaller groups or part of Scrotus' gang. They often become very defensive when approached and will most likely attack the player. The more violent packs often take refuge in structures dotted around the desert. These locations can be lucrative to the player, often providing ammunition, makeshift weapons or scrap metal, which is used as a form of currency. Even in certain locations, Max can find evidence of a life that once was, in the form of historical relics such as photographs or notes from the past. These structures can be scouted from a distance, giving Max flexibility on how he should best proceed. Not all survivors are aggressive, and some will even assist the player. These could be strangers scouting large settlements from a distance, or more organised groups that are on a similar mindset to Max when it comes to dealing with Scabrous Scrotus, whom will provide the player with supplies in exchange for favours. Each area of the world is split into sections, with gang leaders holding their respective territories, and every so often you'll come across hot air balloons which can be used to scout further distances from a height, in turn updating the in-game map. Danger roams the dooms, and often War Boys in vehicles will attack Max upon sight and even chase him down if he tries to flee, resulting in car battles, something which we'll come back to. Each area has a level of threat, and as Max battles against the aggressors, whether this be tackling large camps to move in allies or simply bringing down the terrifying scarecrow type structures, you will see a genuine reduction in threat. Less and less enemies will roam around that particular area. The allied strongholds can all be upgraded too, whether it be adding a scrap resource, a water one, or my personal favourite, an ability to send out survivors to collect the scrap from enemy vehicles that you've destroyed. In order to build these stations, Max must locate parts around the world, which are often in separate locations from one another. The world of Mad Max is unforgiving, and although it may seem somewhat desolate and isolated, there's always something to keep the player in action, whether it be Scrotus convoys, the Top Dog war camps, or even death runs. But in order to survive in these harsh lands, Max must be resourceful. All of the animal life, bar an exception or two, is non-existent. There are no farmlands, no crops, no dairies, or anything like that. So how would anyone find nourishment? Well, unfortunately, it's not a pleasant experience. The only things that are edible are tins of dog food, maggots that manifest in decaying corpses, or rodents that Max must kill and eat raw. If you prefer a more liquid-based diet to replenish your health, there are small pumps that can be discovered at locations where Max can refill his canteen, but these are sometimes scarce and only contain a little amount. Fuel is an important element in the world, and it seems to be the only resource that's in plentiful supply. This can be used to sometimes fuel the aforementioned hot air balloons, provide use as an explosive, but above all else, its purpose is to supply gas for Max's vehicle, which has its own gauge meter and must be closely monitored at all times, otherwise you'll find yourself stuck in the middle of nowhere and now on foot. Ammunition, although can be found relatively often, has to be used sparingly too. Max's makeshift shotgun can only carry a limited amount of ammo, forcing the player to be cautious on how often they want to use it. The combat style takes heavy inspiration from Arkham Asylum, Sleeping Dogs, and Shadow of Mordor, in which Max can be surrounded by multiple enemies at the same time and must have his wits about him if he wants to survive. The combo system is done pretty well, and every punch or kick really makes you feel like you've actually impacted. The same applies to vehicle combat, which is an entirely entertaining thing on its own. Enemy vehicles can be dealt with in a number of ways. Max can use a harpoon to pull off the doors of vehicles or bust through their tyres, or even yank the driver straight from the car. Failing this, he can always break out the trusty shotgun on the tyres, or the fuel tanks often to the rear of the vehicle, or just run them off the road. When tackling larger camps, the player should be aware of the defences put in place. This is where scouting from a distance comes in handy. Most have fortified front gates which can be pulled down, and snipers in watchtowers need taking out from afar with a sniper rifle. Others have fuel tanks providing a flamethrower that blocks the entrance, and almost all of them have war criers, who beat drums rallying up the enemies, and if successful will make them more difficult to deal with. All of these defense mechanisms are best handled as quickly as possible, making taking over the fort a great deal more manageable. As challenges are completed, both Max and his car can be upgraded. The player can redeem tokens and meet with a peculiar wastelander by the name of Griffin. Here, they can upgrade their abilities. Other options can be found in the menus, where you can upgrade also, including the character's appearance. Max's vehicle probably has the most in-depth customization ability, which is handy as you'll be spending a lot of time in your car. Speed and acceleration can be improved, as well as armor and features such as a nitro boost. You can also kit up with some handy accessories like a ramming grill and side spikes, all of which are necessary as Max will later face tougher enemies. Even if you're a little tired of the car's body style, this can be changed too, providing you find the required shell out in the desert. If you find yourself wanting to cruise around in an entirely new vehicle, you can do that also after obtaining it from some poor soul. There are other gameplay features that may seem small, but really add an element and feel to this open world, such as giving travelling survivors a sip from your canteen, splitting scrap piles with them, or receiving helpful information on fortified locations. There have been many games based on movie franchises and vice versa, and not all have panned out, such as Fight Club, Superman 64, and the infamous E.T. the Extraterrestrial, but Avalanche Studios got this one right. Although initial reviews came across as somewhat average, I'd put this down to comparing it to other AAA releases that same year, which was a little unfair. Whether the release was planned to coincide with the incredible Mad Max Fury Road, starring Charlize Theron and Tom Hardy, may have been a strategic plan that unfortunately didn't pay off. It still stands the test of time 8 years later. The world is intimidating, especially as you come across stronger enemies later in the game, hiding away in secluded locations. The Australian accents are a pleasant change, as it's something we don't hear quite often in video games. To me, this makes the title stand out a little more. The combat system, although it's been done in similar fashions previous to this, is engaging. Like I said before, with each hit, whether it be hand to hand or in a vehicle, feels impactful, adding a realistic touch. Although the story, on paper at least, may seem a little unrelatable, the twists and turns along the way which change the narrative will keep you both engaged and enticed. So would I recommend grabbing yourself a copy of Mad Max? Considering all we've discussed today, aided by the fact that you can purchase this for around £10 or less, absolutely. The story alone will take you around 20 hours to complete, or up to 60 hours if you're hellbent on exploring the entire world, which is something I implore you to do. I honestly consider Mad Max to be one, if not the, most underrated open world game of recent times. If you wish to see more content on Mad Max, let me know in the comment section, as I have an idea for a secrets and Easter eggs video that I'm happy to put together. If you guys enjoyed what you saw today, be sure to hit like, and if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing as well. If you wish to get in touch, you can find me over on my Instagram page, which you'll find both on screen and in the video description below. Thank you all for watching, you've been listening to Phil, and I'll see you in the next one.